even if it's not part of the focal point, I want to make sure that the things that are around the edge are still interesting. So in order to do that, I have to mix up a little bit of the background and then go in and start being more specific about what I'm actually painting rather than just laying up kind of this poetic arrangement of stuff. I have to be more detailed and precise. If we look at the image again, you can see how, this looks like there's 2 leaves, and in the picture there's actually 3. Go ahead and enlarge this so you can see what I'm looking at. So you see the difference in what I have and what is the reference image. I've kept mine vague, to say the least. I mean, there's not a lot of things that are like locked in, but it has the feeling and character of the setup. All right. So I'll jump to my palette to open up this in a separate window so I can see it as well. All right. So I have to start out by mixing some greens, and we all are familiar with that process, right? You guys are pros at it now. I will mix some blue and yellow, and that makes green. Blue, yellow, it's cad yellow pale. Blue and cad yellow pale, that makes green. If that is too green, then you have to adjust it somehow. So there's a green. Go back to the reference. There's some warmth in there, but there's also lighter notes. But I'm just also realizing that I said I was going to do the background first. So let me just kind of finish this thought here. This lighter note of green. The stuff underneath is dry, so that's a little bit of brown. That's a new section of green that will come in handy. But first, I have to finish up the background. I will put some people will think of this as pre-mixing. I'm not really pre-mixing. I'm just getting something started. It's not technically a pre-mix. I'm thinking about what I'm going to paint right now. And while I'm thinking about it and mixing color, I might as well just mix a little bit more. So if I look at that background and I look at what I have, and I put down a note to test it. So this is a little bit dark, right? You can see that it's slightly dark. So I'll just go back to my palette and grab some of the white, a little bit of brown, the raw umber. Looks like that should be close. No, it's still too brown. Add a little bit more white. This is pretty thick now. I don't think that I need it that thick, but if I'm going to cover, add a little bit of white. Really what you want it to do is you want it to play the part that it needs to play. So in other words, like if I scrape this down and take a lighter color, if it was thinner, I could take a whiter note and I could kind of just drag that across. So there's a variety of options. You see, by establishing that background, then I can go in and start to... So now I want to continue this note in shadow. So I'll go back to my green, go to the area that's in shadow, the brown, maybe a little bit of blue, my cobalt blue. Break open the blue, adding a little bit of cobalt blue there. And coming in here and kind of determining what this is actually doing. It's a bit of a edge to it as well. So it has like a jagged edge. And then there's this one right in front. So if I grab more of the light notes and see where that's going, draw a little bitty tip, and then that comes around over here. So this meets up here. This is in back. I'll show you in a second. So this goes here. So now this is behind this. See that? And there's that point where the tip goes up. And then there's also that area where it's receiving light and the area of cast shadow. So this is an area of cast shadow. This is the area that's receiving light. Then there's kind of ambient warm light. I take some raw umber and the yellow that I have. There's ambient warm light that goes up and around this way. And then there's some light green towards the top of that. So that's no longer in shadow there. Make sure my image is in focus. I'm looking at a tiny screen here while painting. So sometimes that can happen by mistake. Sorry about that. I think it was slightly out of focus. So now this is the third and final leaf on this section, and it goes a little bit warmer down below. And underneath it, there's a section here that's the edge of that other leaf. So now that I have kind of the leaves in somewhat of a position, I feel like this one got away from me a little bit. that shape is slightly off. A little bit of the background color. Push it down, and I'll take the leaf, tip of the leaf, open up this way a little bit more. You can kind of see there. And it folds back this way. Take some blue. This is going to have a little bit of some ambient, lighter blue notes. Some light bouncing into it from the room. Not that dark along this edge. Darker though than this form here. And this is separated, so that has to be. I'm gonna break out a tiny brush. Probably go even tiny. So it looks like the red is gonna butt up against these shapes. Sometimes I don't like to share that much of the photo with you because my goal is not to be an insane photorealist. But in this case, to continue to develop the picture, that sometimes there's only one path forward, and if you have the photo reference, it's helpful to stay faithful to it because it's your source of information. After you no longer have the flowers and you don't want to just make it up, and you want to try to see at this, what it's doing. Much more warmth in it than what I have. I could use, so if you look at the palette here, I can transition over to some of these oranges up on top. So I could break something open. I think that's actually Indian yellow. Could break that open, add some Viridian white, and that gets me a little bit warmer. Too dark, so I have to add more white. And maybe a little bit more of the orange. Take some white and Viridian. That's one step higher. This is over to the right, so I have this base. I have these one step higher up to the right. To get some of these things going on, add some white to it. I want to try to get that edge soft. It's also the advantage to having the background in, so you can soften it down. It didn't work. Grab a little bit of background color. Put that in. This one over here is a little too sharp, too much. Now, do I think that that's successful? I don't. If you look at it, there's things that could be fixed, could be done. But if you think about the whole picture and what's at stake, I've done a little bit of careful work, rendering and such. Then I think I can branch out and soften this edge a little bit of the tip. Looks like there's some brown. Actually, there's a little bit of kind of brown in the leaf. Then there's also a little bit of the background popping through. You don't have to go all the way and do that, but sometimes. Okay, let's see. If I take the background and shape this slightly more, this has to come up. Some more of the background. This has to go lighter. I'll zoom in on the photo so you can see what I'm looking at. Still looks like there's like a lot of ambient light bouncing up on top. Mine's too dark. Actually, another little hole next to it. At a certain point, you guys probably don't care to hear every step, so I'm just gonna paint a little bit. Definitely overthinking it a little bit too much. That's what happens with sometimes when you want to tighten up, it can become stiff, a little bit unpleasant. Not saying that that's what's happening to this yet. Emotionally, you start to lose a little bit of a momentum if it doesn't snap into position really quickly. But some people take forever to paint anyway, so it's not, I'm just used to wanting to get it quick. But I think it feels like it's kind of going across there. There's some complexity within it. It pushes it into a new realm so that I can look at this slightly different. Now if we go to the image, you can see that the flower itself is definitely different. It's further resolved, and it's in slightly different position on the in the vase. Mine's higher, so I can just go right in with my, you guessed it, the background. Kind of thick paint again. And looking at some of the shapes here, just try to carve out a little bit what's happening. New object, I'm going to go to a new area on my palette. Some violet, pink, blue. See what that looks like. Get darker. This whole area is slightly darker, so I'm going to glaze through that. I could take some pure black and test where the darkest dark is. So if you look at the image, you can see some of that character of the pure black almost coming across. I could take, if I go to my palette again, I could take some violet, cobalt violet, some of the blue. I may have to put some more King's blue out, a little bit more of the cobalt violet. See this area here where it's kind of there's a note of violet kind of coming through here. That's nice. Take some of the magenta, mix it on the surface. See that there? And then I'll come back with the black actually, and I want to try to cut Now that I have that nice note, I think I could cut across here a couple times and over, looking at that. This area, add some brown and blue to it to come down this way. A little bit more ultramarine blue. You may ask why the brown and the blue, and the reason I would say is so that the other colors, if you look at the colors on top, you want the colors in the light area, colors up here to have some beauty and character to it. And then this down here, you want this stuff to be less interesting. That brown and blue mixture again, and do another stroke down here. Come around, I'll show you my mix here. I'll try to zoom in a little bit on the palette. So you have this, I have some more red, I have some more violet. Take some of that dark mixture and along the edge here. Now I need a really, I'm gonna go back to my palette. There's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So there's 1, 2, 3. This part, go out, take a little bit of the black, back up that way. Take some more of the red. I'm just kind of trying to lay it up there. It doesn't work. I can scrape it. There's actually a lot of paint here. I may take some of this texture off, buffify it a bit. Then this goes really dark behind it. Back up this way. And I can take some of the background, come up. Now I have to be careful that on my palette, that when I mix this out, see this brush has a little bit of pink in it. Now I can either clean it off with my rag, or I can grab some Viridian and try to blend out that little bit of pink that I have in the brush. So there I have the proper color. Now it's too light, it looks like. So I have to darken it down. Over here, some black, maybe something like that. A little bit too warm, add some more black. I've kind of been all over the place on this with the glazing in the background, and now it looks like putting in pretty solid note. So I'm going to be careful here. I want to lift up that note, reestablish. Keep going for some of the translucency that I'm after while not making a mess of the dark violets. Sorry, am I breathing right into the microphone? So many things to think about. Now that's created some new stuff happening up here. It's gone in and kind of refreshed my flower. Now I can just maybe touch up slightly this area up here because it needs it. So this goes much smaller. Scrape that off again. See, remember that part of the oil and part of the paint and everything, if you scrape, it comes off of the layers. The thing that you have to think about is like it's a constant kind of additive, subtractive process of knowing how you're layering color or how you're layering the paint to do what you want it to do. A little bit of this green that fluid up here. Just notice there's kind of a cool little bit of indication of light there. The silhouette on the top isn't going in kind of my favor, so I'm gonna see there that was a clear area where you have to be careful because that added. I pulled it up. I'll zoom way in so you can see it. I pulled it up and it added that little bit of pink there. See that? Added that little bit of pink there, that's what you want to really avoid. So I'm going to pull it this way, take some background and put it in there and pull it that way. All right, let's see here. Pretty good up until this point. That's that dark. Take some really thick background color. See how I can fix this. Take some black, push this stuff. Take some pure cobalt violet maybe, so that the cobalt violet, I feel like it's just not nearly as strong and it won't bleed like that. Behind it, I can try it again. Violet blue. Just zoom out now a little bit. See what I'm trying to do. Then this darker red up this way. The white. The light is passing through here, so transmitted light. This is the form light here. This is some more transmitted light here. This is form light. This whole section goes down darker. Look at the silhouette along the bottom there. There's one area that bumps out slightly more. It's this thing here. So I'm just going to continue it out. That's about it, I think. So now if I step back, if I just look at the picture, I will zoom out a little bit for you. It has a certain kind of quality that I'm going for. It's hard to tell exactly what that is, being totally honest. It's just part of the process painting. So if you look here, So now I have this delicate greens up there. I have this kind of more rendered, darker, heavy, negative shape. I'm going to darken down the base a little bit with a bit of a glaze. I don't know, looking at my... Let me look at the image just to see what I'm actually supposed to be doing. So it looks like it has a bit more of... It's a cooler hue. So if I take black and just put it up there. And then I'm going to paint some white into this. I want to make that cooler. So I'm going to grab between these two. I'm going to grab some of this, some of that, maybe some yellow up here. And kind of just indicate that there's something else occurring up there. That I'm feeling something else happen. Then I'll take some black again, put the black down. The black over here, back to that green, kind of works. Now I'm going to take some white and some of that yellow, and I'll take pure white, build up that highlight there. There's a little bit more, some of that through there. That's kind of cool. Let me look at the image now. Something distracting about my highlight in the base. See how this perspective of it is off. I'm going to add some orange and green to it at this point here. The base itself, this, just have to decide where the bottom is. I'll have to do some looking. You look at the picture there. Now that reflection on the table is cool too. Mine doesn't have that. Mine's all messed up. But we'll get there. If you look at the image, that's what the image looks like. Trying to get my... Maybe I'll go to my palette. Take some violet and some black and white that down as well. Maybe I'll scrape it. Maybe I'll blend it with the paper towel. Never know what will happen here. Remember, going back to the idea of I don't want anyone to be able to copy it. It's too easy to understand. It's definitely you can copy it. Make it complicated here. Well, I'm going to stop. I've been going just right at about an hour and I haven't got my shirt dirty yet. So maybe it's a good thing. I'll just stop. I wasn't planning on painting. So I'm going to stop and I will continue on. I don't know what's going to happen with this painting, but I need to finish it at some point. That's where we're at. So I hope you enjoyed it and are still continuing to learn. See ya.